Okay, welcome to Forensics. This is April 29, 2020, and we are going over notes on fire investigations for the homework. This is item number 6 on our daily agenda. But just as a reminder, a few announcements and everything. So, number 1, I've got a really cool Tell Your Heart to Beat Again video, which is a really interesting thing to remember that even when we have hardship, life will go on. There's a lot of blessings yet to come. We will get out of lockdown. We will get out of high school. You know, you've got a lot of things to look forward to. A lot of blessings coming your way, and through heartache, you get to appreciate the good things a little bit more. So check that out as our daily prayer. God has it under control. Number 2, everyone's doing a great job of the attendance assignments, but maybe not as good of a job at turning in all your work. It is grade reporting time. All teachers are sending in their grades to the registrar today, so you want to make sure to get in your missing assignments. We only have like 4 weeks left in the semester. There is a makeup assignment for those who missed the Story of Plastic video, which expired last Friday. So you can check that out by this link. It's also at the Story of Plastic assignment. So that's where you'll find it. You turn it in right there as well. There is no test on the fingerprint unit that we just wrapped up. We're moving into forensic investigation of fires and arson and explosives, and there will be a quiz or a test on that probably later next week. But we are now going to talk about the fire investigation. So there are notes for you to follow along with, and you can open up your notes and complete the missing blanks and turn that in. At the very bottom on the last page, there are 2 videos for you to watch. Very interesting. They are 60-minute videos from a television news program. One is on a big fire in California in 2018, November 8th. It's when the entire town of Paradise, California burnt. So that's really interesting how they investigated that fire. And then also really cool is figuring out why would someone set fires on purpose. I think they have like 40% of wildfires that we have, that Australia has, they're set by people intentionally. And so why would someone do that? This 60-minute program, that's the name of the show. It's not a 60-minute video. It's like a 20-minute video. Gets into the mind of why someone would do that. So you're going to click into those 2 case studies at the end. The STEM project that we have on pause, we will be resuming that next week, so more information on that later. So, moving over to our fire basic notes. You've got to understand the key terminology here. There's a fire triangle that we're going to go over that shows the 3 things that are needed to produce and sustain a fire. A fire might start, might go out quickly. You might have a pool of gasoline sitting there and a lit cigarette, and you flick that lit cigarette like they do in the Hollywood movies. And will it start a fire? No, because it's missing the 3rd piece of the fire triangle that we'll get back to. The term flashpoint stands for the lowest temperature that the gaseous vapors that emit from a solid or a liquid as it is heated up. Vapors are given off, and then these vapors are going to ignite and create like an explosion or a fireball. So that's called the flashpoint. Everything has its own flashpoint. Everything burns at a particular temperature. We typically have a fire chief come in and talk about how they analyze fire scenes, but we're not able to do that, so I want to bring up a few stories of what they say. What I remember my first impression when I had the Costa Mesa fire chief in to our class is that he looked like a police officer. He had two badges. He had a police badge and a fire chief badge. And that's because many firefighters are dual licensed, because when they go to investigate a fire, it turns out that this is such a serious crime that people may resist arrest. They may even fight back instead of getting arrested. There is something called the three-strike law. I remember when this was voted in a couple decades ago. Someone that commits 3 serious offenses, that's like in baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. Three main felonies, and you are in jail for the rest of your life. And so if someone has already been to jail twice and now they just can't stop doing crimes and they do an arson fire, if they're being investigated, these people know that, hey, this is it. I can't get caught. I'm going to go down fighting. And so he came to class with a bulletproof vest on. That's the way they will go out and investigate and talk to people, interview people who saw the fire and stuff. Most arsonists, when they start a fire, they hang around and they watch what's happening. And they get a charge out of seeing all the devastation that they've done. And so when they investigate these fires, they're going to video everybody that's there. They're going to make sure that they get to talk to everyone that is showing such an interest in the investigation and stuff. But back to the words up here. Flashpoint. It turns out that today's furniture is made out of man-made materials, which means that it's made out of polyester, made out of plastics. Plastics are made out of petroleum, which is fuel. So if you were to burn like a typical living room on fire and just see how long it takes for the fire to engulf the entire room, and then if you did that with a classic natural furniture like wood and nylon and cotton type of furniture, today's room will go up within a matter of like 3 minutes, whereas the old natural materials goes up in about 20 minutes. So if someone is like smoking on the couch, they fall asleep, they could burn the couch. And if it was an older couch, it would not have necessarily started the entire room on fire so quickly that you could not escape. But kids playing with matches or someone accidentally starting something on fire, the flashpoint is so fast in today's materials. So it's really interesting that they have this ATF. That's the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They have this big, huge laboratory. It's like a warehouse on the East Coast. And it's 2 stories. It's got a big hood. It will capture all the smoke and all the energy. They can build a 2-story house in there and start it on fire and capture all the heat and energy, and they measure how much energy was in that fire. If they're going to go to trial and they're talking about how someone couldn't escape and they're going to be drilled, how fast did the fire overtake someone and their ability to put the fire out and things like that, they'll recreate it like a science experiment and film it and have it there for the judge and the jury. And that's really interesting that they have these pretty cool, sophisticated tools now. The way that fire investigations have changed over the last 20, 50 years is because of the man-made materials that are in our houses now. So we had to relearn how to do investigations. And they got a little bit wrong until they realized, hey, we don't understand flashpoints and what the explosion of this new source of gas in the house the gas floats right above the carpet. Carpet is made out of plastic, and now you have a gas floating over. So it looks like the fire is just over in the corner, but you get this gas all in the room, and then boom, the entire place just goes up in a flash, and that's where that name comes from. A fire investigator is going to look for where the fire started. That's called the point of origin. They're going to look at different burn patterns. Different materials are going to have different burn patterns. And obviously, if someone is setting a fire deliberately, that's arson, and they use accelerants to get this thing going quickly. Wasn't it interesting to look at the arson dogs and how keen of a sense of smell they have to pick out the very remnants of gasoline that did not burn in the fire, that's soaked into the wood? And they are amazing in the way that they can smell chemicals. You might see them at the airport trying to smell illegal drugs. They have cadaver dogs that can smell dead people, even if they're buried in a shallow grave. They track people for hundreds of miles with the scents that are coming off of our skin cells. So dogs are amazing. That arson dog assignment is really cool. Here is the fire triangle. You need all three of these in order for fire to occur. Obviously, that's fuel and oxygen. And so if someone's trying to set a house on fire and they start a room on fire, if they leave the windows and doors closed, it might run out of oxygen. So typically, if it looks like arson, all the windows and most of the doors are open so that this thing just got a big rush of oxygen in from the outside. Big clues. So I mentioned that lit cigarette. In the movies, after a car crash, the big car chase scene, and now it's trapped the bad guy in the car wreck, and the car is leaking gasoline, and someone takes a lit cigarette and flings it over to the pool of gasoline. In the movies, it always explodes. But the firemen have done this time after time. It never lights. It's not enough heat to start the liquid gasoline on fire. So you need all three of these things. So, as I mentioned, there's a flash point. Most solids and liquids will have to become a vapor or gas before they will burn, at least ignite the solid. So that's something that I mentioned earlier. And with the plastic type materials, they do give off that vapor or gas much more quickly than natural products do. Isn't it interesting also that we breathe in about 21% oxygen, which is the amount in the air, and a fire needs 16% oxygen? So a fire is an out of control chemical reaction with oxygenation. And if you starve a fire of oxygen, then it will go out. So if you are at a campfire, you're poking at the wood, maybe lifting it up a little bit, trying to get a little more airflow underneath there. It needs a constant supply of oxygen. So how does an accidental fire start in a home? Usually in the kitchen. So look at the stoves, heating appliances, damaged wiring. There's a lot of electrical outlets in the kitchen. And if you have a malfunction, then it's going to create heat with the electricity going through here. And when you watch the video on the Paradise Fire, that was caused by PG&E, the electric company. They have 100-year-old electric high power lines. And these things give off tremendous amount of heat. And when these aging transformers and stuff fail, then you have a huge heat source, just melting metal that just got fried, and then it falls to the ground in the dry brush. That's what started that fire. Started at 6:30 in the morning, And the firemen went out there real quickly and saw that it was something they could manage. But the winds were howling at 45 miles an hour, too much wind for aircraft. The fire road that you see usually in the hills are accessible by fire trucks. This one was beyond repair. They couldn't get their trucks back there. And so in 1 hour, it went from a small fire right underneath the power line to 300 acres. And then it took over the entire town hours after that, burned every structure. Just 95% of the town is gone. So heat is one thing. So now, I don't know if you caught this in the news, but PG&E now will shut down some of their power lines during high winds and high temperatures, because now they know that they have fuel in the dry brush, they have heat in the high temperatures of the day, and if their power lines fail, that's the heat ignition source, and with the strong winds, it's huge amounts of oxygen. And California is famous for not only our earthquakes, knock on wood, but also our horrible forest fires. Fires are natural. A lot of times they're started by lightning. But now, if we're not careful, a lot of these aging power lines are now causing a lot of our fires, as well as arsonists. So a fireman going out to investigate this is trained to do this. A firefighter is fighting the flames, and that's a skill itself, but being able to go into a charred remains of a building and try to figure out by the patterns of the burn whether or not this was an accidental fire or if it was one set on purpose, either to hide a crime, for financial gain, trying to collect insurance money. Maybe it's a revenge type thing, trying to get back at someone who gets the house during a breakup. Maybe it's a failing business and they can't sell the business, so they're going to burn the place down and collect a big insurance on it. So insurance companies will go out and investigate fires as well as the fire chief. And they have to determine if they're going to pay out the millions of dollars on the policy. So they're looking at the point where the fire started. They work from the least damaged area to the most damaged area. And the most damaged area is going to be where the fire starts. If they notice that the fire started in multiple points within that structure, now it's pretty suspicious. So charred patterns are going to tell how fast the fire started. They're going to look at the material in the room. They're going to take charred samples. They're going to take exemplars, which are examples of non-burnt material, like you would find with a piece of floor, maybe underneath a couch that didn't burn. They're going to look for burning patterns. If the fire started near an outlet, you're going to have a very small burn area 1 inch above the outlet. But if you go up 2 feet, now the V pattern is expanding all the way to the ceiling. It's going to burn through the ceiling, and that is called a chimney effect when you get the fire going straight up. It's not necessarily going to spread sideways. It burns much slower to the sides than it does going up. So you're going to see heat shadows from heavy furniture, anything that shielded a part of the structure. Maybe it burnt last, and so that portion has less burn. They're going to see if it just doesn't make sense. So with the history of examining fires, they have a pretty good idea of how things work. But if not, they're going to go to that ATF laboratory and build the entire structure. They can build a 2-story house. They can build a bedroom. They can do recreation of crime scenes, and they're going to see, they're going to get the exact same couch, the exact same year of whatever it is. Go to IKEA and replace whatever they had, burn it, and see if things are as the witnesses say, and if it was plausible that what happened, if you're going to take this to trial. Different materials burn at different temperatures. and the smoke emitting from the material is different. If it's a forest fire with wood trees burning, then it's going to be more white, almost like a cloud color, and grayish. But if this is petroleum and plastics, it's going to be a dark black. And you probably know the smell of burnt plastic, like in a car wreck. If the tires burn, they burn a long time. There's a lot of fuel in the tires, and that's really black smoke. Just like with other investigations, they have to document this. It could be a crime scene, could be going to court, so they're treating it like a forensic investigation, obviously. And they're going to not only take notes, photographs, videos, they're going to also ID the witnesses, get their witness statements as fast as they can so people don't have a chance to talk to each other and corroborate a story. They're going to collect evidence in metal cans so that the fumes do not dissipate. Then they can take a syringe of the gas and put it into a GCMS, gas chromatogram mass spectrometer at the forensic lab, and find out exactly down to the molecules what type of material may have been used as an accelerant. Accelerants stick around. It's very rare that all of the accelerant will go up in flames. And so here's some pictures of different burn patterns, and you can see the chimney effect here. It sort of looks like the flue of like a Coleman, or I should say Franklin stove, wood burning stove. Don't have the bottom of the floor, but the fire is pretty much located in that one direction, so pretty easy to spot the point of origin right there. And maybe it was wood that sparked and then came out. Maybe the grate wasn't closed and lit the carpet on fire. Here you have open window, which is creating good airflow through here, and you're going to see burn patterns right outside the window. And in the middle picture you can see it sort of has the flames curling around, burning some of that wood. And even if it didn't do that, the smoke coming out of that window is going to be deposited on that material. So they're going to take pieces of that board, perhaps right over that window. You can see the chimney effect and the smoke going like crazy in this left picture, and also in all three of the pictures. Firefighters, when they're dealing with this level of smoke, they bring their own oxygen, because this is one of the most deadliest things in a fire. If you find yourself in a burning house, you have to hit your hands and knees, crawl on the floor, get away from the smoke, which is 5 feet, where you're standing. The fresh air is at the bottom of the floor, but that gas and the smoke will basically knock someone out. They may have had time to get out of that burning building if they did not suffer the smoke damage. So as I mentioned, they're going to have to determine if this is an accident or arson. Accidents are when kids play with matches, someone falling asleep when they're smoking on a couch or in bed, electrical appliances that fail, heating systems that fail, wires in the wall, these type of things. And someone's homeowner's insurance policy will cover accidents, but insurance policies will not cover arson or non-accidents. So this is where the arson dog comes in, checking for odors, for accelerants. This is when you find something odd. All the personal objects and valuables are out of the house when the house went up. Nothing personal, no computers. A lot of windows open. You've got multiple points of origin. All this is not going to look like it was an accident. Either locking windows and blocking doors so that someone can't escape. Looking for inverted V patterns. Because then accelerants were like thrown up against a wall. trailers that lead from where you have like someone just dripping a line of gasoline across the floor. And the facts about arson is that billions of dollars of property loss, nearly 1,000 people die in fires. There's nearly 500,000 fires, and half of these are set on purpose. And it turns out that most of the ones that are set on fire on purpose, it's hard to catch them. This is a crime that is really tough to track down. But most of the arsons are caused by children under 18. Sometimes it's just goofing around, experimenting with fire, getting revenge on someone. And if you are an accessory to this, if you know someone, for example, who is trying to get back at someone for a bad breakup, and they want to take some of the personal belongings that they have, and they know they have like a fire pit in their backyard for bonfires, and they take their stuff and they just set it on fire, and then they call them up, hey, you know what, I returned your stuff, it's outside in the backyard, it's going up in flames. That's arson. And if you provided the gasoline from the can for the lawnmower in your garage, you didn't start the fire, you weren't there, but you provided something. You providing a shopping list and said, this is what you need, and you can get it over here and over. Hey, you're accessory, and they will go after everyone involved. This is something that has to be investigated, and they have to hold people accountable for this because it is huge. It turns out that half of all of our huge wildfires that we have here in California, as well as down in Australia, are caused by people setting fires on purpose. This is a felony. This is a strikeable offense. There's a lot of jail time. There's a lot of fines. And so this is nothing to joke around with. You can never joke around with arson. You can never joke around with fires or explosives. You can't make anything that looks like a fake weapon. You can't make anything that looks like a pipe bomb. All of these are huge offenses. Not only will you be investigated by local, city, and state, but the federal government, the FBI, the ATF, they don't take these things lightly. So report suspicious persons or activities that you may encounter in your life, and it's important to be in a community watch program. New construction has fire sprinklers, which really do a great job of knocking out a fire quickly, but with today's materials in the houses and with high density of people living close together, this becomes a major problem of buildings going up too quickly. The last page has the link for 2 videos, and you are to watch these shorter videos, and really interesting. Here in California, a recent fire, the largest fire in California history, and it was horrible. I've got a brother-in-law who lost his childhood home. That's where he grew up. He grew up in Paradise, and so many of his high school friends have lost their place of business as well as their homes. The place is not rebuilt yet. So that wraps it up. Fill in those blanks, watch the video, answer in good complete sentences for watching those videos, and turn that in. So thanks for listening, and keep working at finishing strong, and have a positive year, something that you can look back on and be proud of. Get caught up, get the extra help you need from me, get in touch with me if you don't understand something, and we'll get you on the right track. Thanks. Take care, everybody.